Today's story is a tale of two families at war. The Raider clan versus the ASAP mob. Raider clan was founded in Miami in 2008 by Dodo the Don, Gaddafi, Jit, rest in peace, and SpaceGhostPurrp. But that group would expand to include a countless laundry list of rappers, including some that would go on to be quite successful, including Denzel Curry.
SpaceGhostPurrp came out with this tape called Blackland Radio 6.6, which created like this whole wave within the underground, because after that, he went to New York and him and Rocky linked up, and you know, it was Raider clan, ASAP mob, and then Purrp came back to Miami, and that's when we met. But we talked over the phone about the whole Raider clan thing, and I was like one of the first people to join.
Before long, Raider clan had expanded beyond state lines, and regional sets were setting up all over the United States.
You had Raider clan Atlanta, Raider clan Miami, Raider clan Memphis, Raider clan LA, Raider clan New York. You had all that shit in one thing. And we're in high school just making this shit, like, this shit was fun.
The Raider clan and SpaceGhostPurrp's music had a distinctive style in both sound and marketing. They used dark sounding production, gothic themes, and hieroglyphic fonts, many of which were later adopted by the ASAP mob. Now, all these weird fonts can be a little bit confusing, which is why I've decided to create the patented Traplaw Ross guide to dumb hip-hop hieroglyphics. So you want to turn your A's into V's, your E's into X's, your I's into J's, your O's into also X's, brilliant. Flip around your S's, turn those into Z's, sharpen up those U's and turn them into V's. And of course you want to turn your C's into K's. So give it a go with your own name. For me, Traplaw Ross becomes Lorx. Yeah, that's just fucking dumb. I'll stick to replacing the S's with dollar signs, thank you. So that's the Raider clan, but on the other side, you have the ASAP mob. As well as being a rejected alternate name to Amazon Prime, ASAP mob is also the name of the art collective founded in Harlem around 2006 by ASAP Yams, rest in peace. This young visionary and modern day RZA founded the ASAP mob alongside his homeboys ASAP Ills and ASAP Bari. They were inspired by the New York hip hop collectives that came before them, like Children of the Corn and the Diplomats. Funnily enough, Yams was actually an intern for Dipset and ended up working alongside Jim Jones, where he was soaking up knowledge that he would later use on his own ASAP mob.
My first experience in the music industry is dealing with Jim Jones, being around him every day. He taught me everything I needed to know. I'll just stay around him and completely observe the whole scenery.
And it was actually ASAP Bari that discovered Rocky and introduced him to the crew, along with fellow ASAP recruits, ASAP Ferg, ASAP 12y, ASAP Nast, ASAP Ty Beats, and the smallest member of the ASAP mob, ASAP Ant.
We're trying to accumulate status and power, We always stacking, always paper chasing, but it's still we assassinating snitches and police.
Now, 2011 was a special year for both crews, and the come-up was real. SpaceGhostPurrp's first significant release was Blackland Radio 66.6, which released in May 2011. In July of that same year, Rocky dropped his first breakout track, Purple Swag, and then followed that up in August with the banger Peso. Peso ended up becoming a street anthem, and I've got to tell you, it's a lot better than some of the crap that Rocky and Ferg were putting out in 2010. I mean, if you haven't seen it, just go and check out some of these wet farts. But it was over the summer of 2011 that SpaceGhostPurrp and Rocky would link up. Just for reference, from now on, I'm going to refer to SpaceGhostPurrp as Purrp, because fuck me, that's annoying. Now, some have reported that it was actually Yams that discovered Purrp online through a connection with fellow Raider clan member Matt Stoops. But in a 2012 Complex interview, Purrp gives a different version of events where he suggests that he reached out to Rocky on Facebook. This was after hearing Purple Swag. But as you're going to learn through the course of this video, you can't always trust everything that Purrp says. It's weird to imagine a time back in 2011 when rappers are actually using Facebook to connect rather than just a place to see what all your racist school friends are up to. Anyway, however this connection ended up happening, this led to Purrp coming to New York for the summer to work with Rocky and the ASAP mob. This led to some legendary joint performances and some incredible freestyles where you saw Purrp alongside the ASAP mob. These two clearly hit it off, and by September the 7th of 2011, Rocky was already calling Purrp his twin in this interview with Fader.
It's my twin, Space Ghost motherfucking Purrp.
According to Purrp, he was actually the one who introduced Rocky to Juicy J around this time. A week later, they were actually being interviewed together in this rare moment where a drunken Rocky is referring to him and Purrp as twins once again and suggesting that actually this is the name of their joint hip-hop duo.
With that twin situation, that's the name of our duo group. Like Nas Barkley, we wanted aliases, so that's why we use different names. The name of us is Twin. and it stands for Two Wild Ignorant Niggas.
In fact, supposedly the BMW project that Purrp later released as a solo effort was originally slated to be a joint twins album between him and Rocky.
And the name of our motherfucking first album is gonna be BMW. You know what I mean? And that's gonna be, it stands for Black Man's Wealth. Yes, sir. And it's a little EP.
In fact, in this interview, he even went as far as to refer to him as ASAP Purrp.
Shout out my twin, Space Ghost motherfucking Purrp. Call him ASAP Purrp, call him what you will.
Hey, maybe Purrp should have stuck it out as a member of the ASAP mob and his career might have turned out very differently. But the two cliques stayed close, and it was around October that the legendary Raider Clan ASAP mob joint freestyles called the Stash House series begun to emerge on YouTube on the channel of a photographer named Brock Fetch. These are complete fire and they're all on YouTube, and I definitely suggest that you go and check those out if you want to see a bit of classic ASAP lore. ASAP lore, that could be a good name for me. These Stash House freestyles are actually a beautiful time capsule in a moment in the crew's life just before they would all become household names and blow up. These Stash House videos have a bit of everything, including some classic footage of Ferg wiling out and freestyling like the guy that can't seem to come to a party without popping a molly and taking his shirt off. Pop the molly, I'm sweating. Woo! Pop the molly, I'm sweating. Woo! As well as plenty of delightful footage of Yams having fun and watching over the crew from a distance like a guardian angel. Legend. That same month, ASAP and Raider Clan played a legendary show in New York where apparently Drake and the OVO crew were lurking in the crowd looking for people to sign / steal hit songs from. By the end of October, Rocky's debut mixtape Live, Love, ASAP finally drops. It's an instant classic and it features Purrp on 2 songs, including Purple Swag Part 2 and Keep It G, which he produced. But the seeds of beef were sowed on October the 21st, 2011, when at a show at the Fader 4, Purrp punched a Fader employee during the performance. And this was even caught on camera. But Purrp's career was still on the up, and by November the 30th, he was making 2 appearances on Juicy J's legendary mixtape, Blue Dream and Lean, appearing on the track These Bitches Rollin' and Real Hustlers alongside ASAP Rocky. Meanwhile, in November, ASAP Rocky signed a monumental $3 million deal with RCA Polo Grounds Records, securing the bag for both himself and also the ASAP worldwide label that he was founding with Yams. You gotta respect somebody that puts their crew on, man. Seemingly things were all good between the ASAP mob and the Raider Clan right up until November, even seeing ASAP Nas tweeting how much he missed his buddies. Aww. Now, over this period, the ASAP mob continued to take inspiration and style from the Raider Clan, borrowing the hieroglyphics, black outfits, and streetwear attire. Apparently, Purrp and some of the Raiders around this point started to feel like the ASAP crew were biting their style. But it's important to remember that the crews on both sides of this beef created their identity by appropriating different parts of the hip-hop culture from different regions. I mean, the Wu-Tang Clan didn't really create Kung Fu, did they? And also, I'm fairly certain that there was a little-known hip-hop crew that were big on their hieroglyphics around 5,000 years ago called the Ancient Egyptians. And while we're there, let's not ignore the fact that the Raider Clan's entire logo and name has been stolen from a football team that's not even from their state. The Raider Clan can't really take ownership of the black clothes that they stole from the Goths, the trippy hip-hop sounds that they stole from Memphis rap, or the mental instability and childish attitudes that they seem to have stolen from toddlers. So no one's winning any points with the appropriation argument, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a massive culture vulture. But anywho, this created some tension between the groups, with ASAP 12 feeling like Purrp was riding the ASAP wave, and Purrp feeling like the ASAP mob were jacking their style. This initially saw ASAP 12 and Purrp going back and forth in a Twitter beef, which is kind of hard to follow because Purrp is notorious for deleting his socials over the years, but we do have the one side from 12 where we can kind of glean what sort of was said. Initially, it seemed like 12 and Purrp were on good terms on the 5th of December, with 12 even seeming to comfort Purrp about something. But then a few days later on December the 9th, they were beefing about something and 12 was telling Purrp to suck his dick. Div K Kardashian? Anyway, the digital Divic punching was followed up by ASAP Rocky actually dissing the Raiders on his verse on the remix of the David Banner song Yao Ming. But shortly after that drop, ASAP Nas came out denying that there was any beef, and things seemingly just got squashed without any explanation. Purrp then gave Rocky one of his hardest beats of all time, which eventually went on to be the song Pretty Flacco and dropped in January of 2012. But things weren't sweet for long, and in the first half of 2012, several incidents went down which would drive a massive division between the Raiders and the ASAP crew. Then in April, apparently ASAP Mob played an unreleased Purrp song at Coachella, leading to another argument between Purrp and Yams. Then at the end of April, Rocky drops the big single off of his first album, Goldie, which features a line in it about painting girls' toes, which, let's be honest, is a direct copy of a line that Purrp delivered on his track My Enemy, which had dropped a year before this on June 2011. Now, all this biting stuff was obviously pissing off Purrp, but then in a dramatic turn of events, that person that Purrp beat up on stage at Rocky's show the previous year decided to press charges and sue.
The nigga trying to sue. He was trying to sue us.
Word got back to Purrp that he needed to turn himself in to the police in New York.
It was like, you gotta turn yourself in to the police.
According to Purrp, Rocky initially said not to, before then backtracking and saying that Purrp was hiding from the police.
So I told Rocky, I said, I'm gonna turn myself in. He's like, nah, twin, don't do that shit, don't do that shit. I had went back to Miami, go visit my people and shit. And then like, he had from the police and shit. Police? Nigga, I'm out here with my family, bro. Fuck you mean? Like, I go back.
This situation caused a lot more division between Rocky and Purrp and the Raiders and ASAP Mob. But stepping away from the beef for a second, in June 2012, Purrp dropped his debut album Mysterious Funk on an obscure indie rock label called 4AD. This project basically just consisted of remixes and remasters of Purrp's old music, and essentially it received kind of mixed reviews. To me, sure, it's an interesting project, and I know that it's got a lot of die-hard fans, but it doesn't really hold a candle to either Rocky's debut album or his debut mixtape. And the fact that it was released through an obscure British indie rock label opposed to a label that actually has some clout in the rap industry just makes me think that this was a pretty shoddy career move by Purrp. In my opinion, the bad way that he went about releasing this album was paved with good intentions, but ultimately would seal the fate of his career and lead to his musical output stagnating massively. Meanwhile, after signing his $3 million deal, Rocky's career is going from strength to strength. So when Rocky's blowing up in a huge way like he did, and your career is essentially stagnating, it's going to cause tensions to run even higher. Now this beef truly became terminal in June when apparently Raider Clan member and Purrp's cousin Matt Stoops was jumped by ASAP 12 at a party in New York. Or at least that's what the majority of info online would have you believe. But according to Purrp in a ranty and complex interview, this was actually a 2-on-2 fight with Matt Stoops and his friend Alex fighting ASAP 12 and one of his mates. And according to Purrp, during this altercation, Matt got hit with a bottle. Damn, these ASAP guys love hitting people with bottles, don't they? Purrp handled this whole situation very maturely and diplomatically by immediately going on Twitter and threatening to kill 12. And reportedly this was followed by a phone call to Rocky where Purrp was duly told to fuck off. So off he fucked back to Miami, where on June the 20th, a video would emerge showing the Raider Clan essentially denouncing all of ASAP Mob. Denzel Curry gave a very mature summary of the situation while simultaneously seemingly giving a good case for going vegan.
Hey yo, I'm not ASAP. All that beef shit, that shit's honestly gay. I don't like beef at all. I'm a man of peace and shit. But if a nigga want war, we'll just take him to war, straight up.
And also former Raider Clan member and current legal weed mogul Lil Champ Fway explained that the Raider Clan were never involved in those Stash House freestyles and it was all just Purrp working with ASAP.
Stash House shit.
That shit was last year, you know what I'm saying? Like that shit, we wasn't there. You know, you ain't see nobody who was here or anybody in Raider Clan there. It was just Purrp, like we not affiliated with them.
And they go on to say that the Raider Clan is a bigger movement than ASAP because they have members and movements going on in every state around the United States, and ASAP is just a local crew. But if I've learned anything from Denny's, it's that having one in every state doesn't necessarily make it good. On the 1st of July, Rocky responds in a rant on the red carpet at the BET Awards, saying that Purrp is corny and that he should stick to making beats.
He's corny, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, stick to making beats, that's all I gotta say.
Savage. And a few days later, Purrp replied in a pretty confusing Twitter rant where, like many of his posts, he oscillates from wishing Rocky well to suddenly saying that he's a piece of shit. And even in a bizarre turn of events, Big Draco himself decides to step in and threaten to eat Purrp's face on bath salts. I know Soulja Boy's just clout chasing, but it deserved a mention because he's funny and I love Soulja Boy. But a day later, Purrp once again reaffirms his commitments to never work with Rocky again, but wishes him well going forward into the future. And seemingly, the rest of the summer passed without incident, ending out the year in October with Purrp saying that he's quitting the shady-ass rap game before 2 weeks later backtracking on that once again. Now seemingly things really died down over the summer of 2012, but in November an incident would take place that would permanently destroy any chance of Purrp and the Raiders reconciling with Rocky and the ASAP Mob. Rocky and the ASAP Mob was set to perform in the Raiders' native Miami at the Fillmore, alongside Schoolboy Q and Danny Brown, and this had the Raiders furious. Alright guys, I know Danny Brown sucks, but no need to be so mad. Apparently security had been alerted about the situation and they were told, don't let any of the Raiders, including Purrp, into the venue. But this wouldn't stop the resourceful Raiders from waiting for Rocky in the parking lot after the show. That's some schoolyard shit right there. I'm gonna be waiting for you in the park after school. You better apologize for not wearing black clothes. But apparently Rocky ended the show by making some kind of slight towards the Raiders, dissing the Raider fans that were in the audience, and playing that song Pretty Flacco that was produced by Purrp. Now story goes that either Schoolboy Q or ASAP Nas saw the members of the Raiders waiting outside at the show and alerted the authorities. But before the cops had arrived, apparently ASAP Bari had jumped the fence and taken on the Raiders. Classic ASAP Bari, jumping ahead without permission. Anywho, apparently Bari received an ASAP beatdown and the Raider clan was serving up knuckle sandwiches until somebody fired some shots into the air and the crowd dispersed.
Oh shit!
Purrp was seen being held on the floor and later cuffed by the police. Hey, I wonder if they made him do a Purrp walk. Get it? Purrp walk? Purrp, fuck off. All these incidents really had tensions running high in the ASAP mob. In fact, a few days later, ASAP Yams was caught on camera yelling at a fan outside a show, seemingly failing his interview for the Tallahassee Tourist Board.
Listen, don't come to Tallahassee no more. Don't come to Tallahassee no more. Yo, listen, don't come to Tallahassee no more.
I love Yams, man. He's like the Puerto Rican Joe Pesci. A couple days after this, Rocky had a cover interview with Complex and he shared some harsh words about Purrp. He said they were super tight before the fame and confirmed the claims that Purrp had made that he was close enough that he would go around Rocky's house and eat his mum's food. But Rocky essentially called Purrp a backstabber, saying that he's crazy, racist and bipolar and that anybody can see that from his tweets. You kinda can. And pretty much summarizing by saying that every time ASAP puts anything out, all the Raiders just jump in and say that they're biting. Essentially, he thinks that Purrp is just mad that Rocky is so successful. But when Complex asked whether there was any chance of a reconciliation, Rocky said no, and using this response as an opportunity to call out Purrp for being a coward for not turning himself into the cops after punching that person at the Fader 4. Then in December, a version of Rocky's debut album leaks with a song called Angels that seemingly has some subliminal shots towards Purrp, this being apparently a reference to Purrp's song The Black God. Then in January, Rocky's debut album Long Live ASAP finally drops properly, featuring the song Suddenly that apparently didn't credit Purrp for his production work. In addition, the remix of the song Pretty Flocko that Purrp had produced was set to be included on the album, featuring Gucci Mane, Waka Flocka and Pharrell, but this was removed due to the beef. But Rocky did give it away as a free bonus to anybody that pre-ordered the album on his website. Go listen to that, by the way, it's a banger. Now, in March 2013, apparently some members of the Raider clan attacked the ASAP mob at a show in New York. This was referenced by Matt Stoops, who said that Rocky was hiding, but apparently this incident actually caused a rift internally amongst the Raider clan members. And by 2013, a lot of members were losing interest in the group and leaving. And former Raider clan Xavier Wolf actually said in a DJ Vlad interview many years later that it was this fight that really put the nail in the coffin for the Raider clan.
So after that whole situation, Raider clan kind of broke up.
We was on tour with Purrp and shit, and then in New York they tried to, run up on us after the show. So a few members from the gang, I don't gotta say no names, but like.
Okay, quick correction. So during the filming of this, I found some info that seemed to indicate that the Raiders had something to do with a hilarious 2012 incident where Rocky jumped in and fought the entire crowd after having beer thrown at him at the South by Southwest Vice Party.
Next person that throws something that's not water.
Well, it turns out that actually had nothing to do with the Raiders. But there was one more little-known altercation at the 2013 South by Southwest Festival. And it was actually Little Champ Fouet, who you might remember from denouncing ASAP in that first video alongside Denzel Curry, and his newly formed crew Fouet Nation. And they actually squared up to a few members of the ASAP mob. And apparently this included ASAP Bari, Ian Connor, ASAP Yams, and Joey Fats. Now this doesn't really impact the beef, but it's a very exclusive piece of lore that I just wanted to make sure that I included and shared with you guys.
Not long after this, in July 2013, Purrp announces once again through his manager Gaddafi that he's quitting rap for good. He says that he's going to stick to producing, and over the following years he drops a couple of kind of good instrumental projects, but essentially doesn't really serve up the fans with the kind of quality music that they're really looking for. And Purrp's relevancy continues to dwindle in the shadow of ASAP's meteoric rise to fame. And that, essentially, is where the meat of this beef ends. On the 18th of January 2015, tragedy struck and ASAP Yams passed away. The ASAP crew and the hip-hop community at large mourned the loss of this young legend. He was taken in his prime, but celebrated and never forgotten for the incredible amount of music and great culture that he contributed in such a short space of time. Now, according to Purrp, him and Yams actually squashed their beef not long before he passed away.
He wanted to do like a Blackout Boys thing.
Yeah.
And I wish we would have got to it before he passed.
Yeah, I talked to him like on his birthday before he died.
You guys like squash everything? It was all good?
Yeah, we talked. Like,
was that like?
Me and him was the closest.
But apparently it was ASAP Bari that stopped Purrp and the Raiders actually reuniting with the ASAP mob and Rocky. But Purrp's claims that he squashed the beef with Yams were never really backed up by any facts, and it's kind of unusual considering that actually a year after Yams' death, Purrp had one of his artists called Chapo make a diss song about Yams called Cooking Yams. It was very disrespectful and frankly a very unclassy move. And Purrp also came out with some frankly disgusting and disgraceful tweets disrespecting Yams around the time of that song dropping. Now, a picture of ASAP Yams holding a fuck Purrp sign has been circulating on the internet for a while. I couldn't actually find out when this picture was taken, but I just felt like here would be a good place to put it because Yams actually wasn't alive to defend himself against some of the childish and pathetic things that Purrp had said about him after he passed. And it was actually that same year that former raider and disliker of gay beef, Denzel Curry, decided to team up with a little-known rapper called XXXTentacion to release a diss on Purrp, with, respectfully, a picture of Yams included as the artwork. In fact, X hated Purrp so much that he had fuck Purrp tattooed on his body. The Purrp and X beef is a whole other kettle fish, and if that's something you want me to cover, drop a comment down below and let me know. Purrp had a pretty lackluster response to this song, calling Denzel Curry McFlurry, which I don't see why that's any disrespect because both Curry and McFlurry are delicious. But as we all know, success is the sweetest revenge, and Denzel Curry went on to have a pretty illustrious career, definitely surpassing the heights that Purrp was able to reach culturally and financially. That's just my opinion. As we go into 2017, a bitter and washed up Purrp continues to diss the ASAP mob online, going on Periscope apparently to expose ASAP Bari. And I didn't even watch this video because, to be honest, I don't think ASAP Bari even needs exposing. We kind of know that he's a douche already. Purrp also had another Instagram rant in 2018 trying to expose Rocky, essentially saying that he's the new Soulja Boy.
You pulling a Soulja Boy, this nigga is the new Soulja Boy. Bro, it took us 10 years to get rid of Soulja Boy, nigga. We finally got rid of Soulja Boy. Nigga, you the new Soulja Boy, bro.
Which I personally wouldn't take as an insult because 1, Big Draco is a straight legend, and 2, you're not going to want to hear this, but Soulja Boy definitely had a much bigger and more significant impact on the hip-hop culture than SpaceGhostPurrp ever had. Sorry, those are the facts. So in my opinion, there's a couple of important and serious things that we should glean from this story. SpaceGhostPurrp clearly does suffer some kind of personality disorder, and several people have said online that he is bipolar. And this seems to be the case. He's constantly wishing people well before immediately turning on them and calling for war. He actually mentioned in a podcast that he feels he behaves this way because of the way his father treated him growing up.
Because I'm trying to like discipline the minds of these young artists coming up. Like, that's how my dad was with me. Nigga, 6 in the morning, boom, kick through the fucking door. He's snapping on me. Early in the morning, what the fuck he snapping about? I don't know, but it made sense. He's installing in my brain how to move right in life, you know what I'm saying? And that's all my dad did.
This doesn't excuse his behavior, but it at least helps you understand. Purrp had a lot of potential, but he seemingly burned every single bridge with every single contact that he could have used to have a prosperous and successful career in the long run. I was initially going to end this video by basically shitting on Purrp and saying that he's an idiot for saying that ASAP jacked his style, that he'd essentially jacked from all different places, the ancient Egyptians, an American football team, Memphis hip hop. Sure, these are things that you helped popularize once again, but you didn't create them. But after really looking at all the facts, all the interviews and all the tweets, it seems clear to me that Purrp is really just kind of suffering from some kind of disorder or affliction that's just making it hard for him to maintain the connections that he needed to make it in the industry. It must have been really hard for him to process the fact that he was on the come up at the same time as Rocky, but through his bad decisions and bad behavior, he basically made his career completely stall whilst Rocky continued on to the very top of the rap game. I can't imagine what that does to an already fragile mental state. But Purrp made it worse by constantly having these meltdowns in public, dragging his crew into badly thought out feuds, and frustrating his fans by constantly quitting and then rejoining the rap game. Ultimately, Purrp's career failed because he got too distracted by beefing and let the actual musical output fall by the wayside. Meanwhile, Rocky and the ASAP mob continued to prosper through the last decade by constantly just focusing on the music and focusing on putting out dope art. If you're an aspiring rapper or artist, I would suggest that you take one thing away from this story. The whole beefing for clout and being bipolar on Twitter thing is for the birds. Don't do that. No one's going to remember 6ix9ine in 30 or 40 years for pulling up on people or getting in fights. People will continue to remember Kanye West, Jay-Z, Biggie, Tupac for the incredible musical output that they were able to create during their lifetimes. So don't focus on beef, focus on making art. And I do genuinely hope that SpaceGhostPurrp can get the help that he needs to have some stability in his life and move on from these events in a positive way. Even though I disagree with a lot of the things that he's done or said, there's no denying that the influence that he's had on the music culture over the last 10 years is significant. So for that, I salute him. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, I would definitely suggest that you go and check out my recent video on how Snoop Dogg beat a murder charge. That video really means a lot to me, and I think it's really worth your time. Thanks again for watching if you're a subscriber. If you're not, definitely go and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it. Thanks very much, and peace out.